Welcome back to another Pitwall chat. How are you today?
Um, a bit sad because there's no race, but other than that, pretty fine. I guess long weekend, so.
Long weekend. It's Easter for you that celebrate that. If you don't, then it's just a normal day. All right. Since it's no race, we are gonna go more in depth of the drivers market. What happened in the last season? What are we sitting with right now?
Take it as an opportunity because when there's a race, there's so much going on that you sort of have an overview of everything. But it's nice to take a step back and
We're sort of doing the pre-work, so you don't have to worry about anything else during the season. You'll know everything from here. We'll go in depth, groundbreaking journalism, and then you can just sit back and enjoy the race.
right.
All right, so first thing we gotta discuss is how long do you think it's gonna take before drivers feel comfortable in the new cars?
Right, because in an interview, Ricardo said that every F1 driver, like if you've been in F1 for a while, um, changing cars doesn't really matter. Like you should be able to extract 95% of each and every F1 car because they're similar enough.
Yeah, I think you said it in Drive to Survive even. Like
Oh
you
yeah,
could, you
true.
could in season 2.
No,
Yeah.
the last one, season 3.
Oh maybe.
Anyways,
Anyway,
so 5% is left to be discovered, but I feel like it's not true for everyone though. Like Ricardo is doing well enough, and so is Carlos, but Vettel isn't doing so hot,
no,
it seems.
it's kind of like sort of where he left off, and it was a weird race with the crash with Esteban, which was clearly Vettel's fault. And he even admitted that he's not 100% comfortable in the car and with the pace. So that's
Yeah, I wonder if he's disappointed about his move to Aston Martin because the team last year as Racing Point was doing very well, especially like everyone thought they would be third because of how they started the season and being the pink Mercedes. So I think he wasn't necessarily expecting the new regulations impact on the car and how much he would slow it down.
no. But at the same time, this is sort of like a waiting season because this car gets wrecked like after 2022 is a whole new concept, and that's sort of what it's there for because he has a 3-year contract at the moment. So I think it will be telling this season on how they're gonna do, but it's not make or break this season necessarily.
True, true.
But as you said, Ricardo looks a lot more comfortable. And as I said, you can probably still drive the car with your eyes closed, but it's more can you take everything? Like, can you brake at the last second? As
Can
Ricardo is
you
the last of the late breakers.
can he beat Lando in not too long? Because Lando has more experience with the team. Um,
Well, it took a season until Ricardo was completely comfortable at Renault.
yeah, but the car was pretty bad the first season he was
Yeah.
there. So McLaren seems to be in a quite a good place. So it shouldn't take too long. Like if the car is good enough, then and the driver is pretty good.
Yeah. You better hope that we see it like sooner or later, like in the first half of the season. It would be
Mhm.
nice to see him start going up there and fighting with Lando.
Right.
They weren't that far this time either, but it was just like different pace, which goes with the experience with the car.
Coming to that, when we look at the differences from Vettel and with Aston Martin and Ricardo with McLaren, you wonder like how much it's the car's fault, or how much is the driver's fault
Yeah,
from like being comfortable and quick.
it is tough to say. It's obviously a balance. Um,
Yeah, but if you take Red Bull as well, for a few seasons, you could argue that Max was sort of over driving the car, but it's
but
also tailored to him.
yeah, but it's also like if he had overdriven a Renault, would he be in that same position? I don't think so necessarily. I think like the car is there and it's just it had its faults, but when he was overdriving it, it was like not super close, but like closest of all the other competitors. Yeah, there has to be a combination. But I think driver plays in a lot more than you would think.
Yeah, but would you say it's like 60% the car, 40% the driver, or Because everyone seems to agree that, well, at least last year, Mercedes was so dominant, and as Max said, 90% of the grid would win in the Mercedes.
Mm-hmm.
Which I always wondered, like, who's the 10%?
Well, I think it's right of him to say because it's okay. So here's basically what I think. Anyone could have won, or 90% of the grid could have won with that Mercedes, but it's the last 10% where the driver matter the most. So
Or,
it shifts on the situation.
yeah,
Maybe.
as also Max said, I don't know why I always quote him. Maybe it's
As
just
in quote master.
no, but he's always
Send
so
it.
honest in
Yeah.
in his interviews. When there's a journalist who rudely asked him, I think it was so rude of him. They said, I think after George drove the car, and George seemed to like do a wonderful job. So they were like, well, do you really need a superstar like Lewis who's paid millions, like
Yeah.
tens of millions, to drive the car when like the car is so good, and then you can have someone for like 10% of that price and do as good of a job.
Yeah.
And then Max said, well, yes, you want like super talent like Lewis, because when it matters, that's when he knows what to do. And we saw that in Bahrain this year.
Yeah.
That's exactly what happened, because they had the same car with Valtteri and Lewis, and then Lewis won when they clearly did not have the winning car that weekend.
Yeah. No, that's for sure what they mean, and it's like with a dominant car, you can probably make the argument that 90% of the grid would win, but you can beg to differ. Would Lewis have been better off than George was in that Grand Prix, even with the two pit stop fails or whatever? Would he have recovered better, or
Well, that's always, he would probably have overruled the pit stop in the first place, because he likes to do that, and
yeah,
is like a strategy master when it
Yeah.
comes to that. He seems to know how to avoid the bad pit stops.
yeah, he really does.
So-
But I was surprised in this in Bahrain this year. He followed the plan, and even after he pitted, he said on the radio, "I think I could have stayed out there for a bit longer," but then was told, "Sorry, the undercut was too strong, so we had to do it." So it shows that he listens to the team as well.
Yeah, but I think when he said that, he was third, wasn't he? Or was he second?
Mm.
Maybe he's more willing to listen to the team when he's not in a position that he likes to begin with.
No, he was in first, and then Max was catching up because they pitted super early because they weren't hard, soft.
Well, who cares? Anyways,
He pitted very early. Mercedes pitted a bunch of times.
yeah, well,
But Max was first leading, then they pitted, and then he had to pit.
all that to say, sometimes he listens to strategy, but he seems to know when to listen and know when to overrule.
Yeah.
So
I think, yeah, but it's like that he analyzes what they say, and then if it doesn't make sense. But he was critical of it, but it shows that he actually did it, even though he was critical of it. So
right,
it's like
so
a weird balance.
depending on the season, depending on the cars, and depending on the drivers, they all play different parts in victory, I guess.
I think so, and it changes from race to race. I think that's the most boring answer you can come with, but also
It depends.
one of the basically it depends, guys. Don't read too much into it. So yeah, it depends.
It depends.
But going back to like the feeling comfortable in the car, because we've talked about Ricardo, Vettel, and Sainz. Sergio looks okay in the Red Bull. It doesn't seem uncomfortable, at least. He has pretty good pace, and the same with Alonso, who's doing pretty well in the Alpine, not Renault. They had like a quicker.
Well, as you said previously, Sergio had as good of a race as Albon had his first race with Red Bull. So
Yeah, both started last and both ended fifth in their first race with Red Bull, which is pretty fun. Starting to see a theme here, a pattern. But it was a good drive nonetheless, which shows that he has some confidence in the car. That with his abilities in that car, like it's not as snappy as last year. I think they have a good car. So he's probably not 100% there yet either, but it was better than, for example, Vettel in Aston.
Yeah, but again, Red Bull was the strongest car that weekend, and it finished fifth. And Aston Martin was clearly not the strongest car.
Yeah. Such a disappointment. It looks so good.
Yes.
The car looks so good. I want Seb to do fine, or not even fine. I want him to do great.
Yeah, same.
But
like to be up there in the fight.
yeah,
At least with McLaren.
At the moment, it just seems like he's just continuing his streak from Ferrari.
Yeah.
We know it's only one race, so you can't read too much into this. But
yeah, I was just hoping for him to do so much better because, like, he's a 4-time world champion.
Yeah,
so.
You kind of want to see that he's changed a bit. Like he feels better. That something is on the up. Like
last season was sad.
Yeah, and it's like he started with not a great starting point for the race and stuff like that, and they did a one-stop strategy with him. They tried at least. This is not completely representative, but you kind of want to see that he has a better feeling with the car. Then, well, he doesn't spin as much that he did in Ferrari, but other than that, it's like
what an upgrade.
yeah, but he's doing some rookie mistakes though, so it's a bit.
Yeah, I'm wondering if Vettel like peaked at Red Bull and then from there it was just downhill because since Red Bull he never won again. Well, the championship.
Yeah, but he was doing fairly well at Ferrari for a while.
Like in his second season, I think, or something.
Yeah, but it's like I feel he has been pretty competitive until I think everyone was like after Malaysia 2019. That's when they start seeing him going down.
Yeah, so has he?
Yeah.
Has he bloomed, or like, do you think he can go back up, or is he just gonna go down, or okay, but nothing, not one of the greats anymore?
It seems in all sports that champions that are on top and then go down, they really do struggle with coming back on top again. It's very rare that you see them go on top and then they change something and then they go down and then change back or whatever. It's rare that you see the champions rise up again, but it does happen from time to time. But it's gonna require a lot from
I think everyone watching F1 has so much hope for next season, so that the car, all the cars would have somewhat similar performances, so that we can truly have an open championship.
It's gonna be super fun. I really hope they achieve it.
Yeah, same. Because otherwise, like, if they're setting us like a very thrilling championship next year, and then it's like Lewis versus Max, that would be a disappointment.
Yeah, but at the same time, like, it doesn't. I would just want more people to be up and fight there.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I don't want everybody, but at least like 4-5 people fighting up there.
It would be great if more people could get wins, but yeah, let's see how the 22 pans out. It's only a year.
Right. Well, 2021 has a lot to offer already compared to last year, where it was Mercedes versus Mercedes.
Yeah, that's true.
At least we have Red Bull now in there.
Very true.
So I guess it's more like Max versus Lewis this year, and hopefully more people next year.
Fingers crossed. All right, so I want to ask another question for you, because I've been wondering about this for a while. Lewis seems to get a lot of hate. As any champion would, I feel like when you're a dominant champion, you will have people that doubt you. But he has like an extra layer to it, I feel. And I have my thoughts of why people sort of dislike the whole Lewis Hamilton and discredits him a bit. But I'm excited to hear what you think. Why is he underappreciated by the fans?
Well, I guess we'll see this year, but I would tend to think that it's because for the past few years, he just had the most dominant car on the grid ever, and his teammate wasn't really in the fight. I think Valtteri is a great teammate because he's willing to listen to the team and willing to take second. So even if Lewis is the greatest of all times, then it doesn't really show because, like, yes, you're the greatest, but you have the greatest car and you have the least amount of competition because everyone in F1 says that your greatest competition is your teammate. So it already takes away like two strong levels of difficulty. So
Yeah.
I guess it's less glory, even though is
Yeah, he is
a legend.
a legend. Okay, so I'll bounce this off you because this is my theory.
All right.
Lewis Hamilton fans is somewhat the problem because they take his position so strongly in the in commenting.
What do you mean?
Like they will defend him so hard.
Right.
It's like if for every person that says that Lewis is maybe not their favorite driver or whatever, then you have 40,000 people writing why Lewis is the best and why you need to shut up and why you're an idiot for thinking that he's not the best and why he's not your favorite driver. So I think that adds another level to it.
Right.
Where it's sort of like he doesn't not that he would respond to any of the comments anyways, but like his fans sort of takes that job upon themselves of defending him, which makes it even more annoying, I think. I just see some of them, I won't mention names, but some of the meme pages that I follow. It's just great memes, but they sympathize with Lewis like no matter what. They can find anything and turn it into why Lewis is great. And it's like, it couldn't even be about that much about Lewis in the first place. But they just find an angle. It's like,
plug it in.
This proves that Lewis is the best. Why? I think, at least for me, that's something that I find annoying because it's sort of like he's not necessarily my favorite driver, but I absolutely have to respect that. He is the best. Like he has the most wins, he has the most poles.
He has the most lead laps. He
That
has
as
the
well.
most.
I don't know, the most pit stops. I don't
The
know,
most pole positions.
the most laps with soft tire. And so you absolutely have to respect it, but it's sort of like he's still not my favorite driver in that sense because people have different people they want to cheer for. But if I say I root for Max and then there comes 10 people saying that I'm an idiot for rooting for Max and why Lewis is the greatest, then you hate Lewis even more.
Actually, I think Max has like die-hard fans in the Netherlands because it's.
Yeah, but they're not as like big on social media. I think like he has the diehard fans, but he's still the underdog.
Yeah.
So you can still like diehard fans for the underdog is like building him up. But if he becomes a champion 10 years in a row next year, that's his first of 10, then his fans taking his position and like defending whatever he does, then he's gonna also be like one of the most hated drivers. Not hated,
Yeah.
but like under.
I think it's probably the dominance of Lewis that makes it hard to root for him because it's sort of, well, he or Mercedes are killing the sport because it's like, I guess, Michael Schumacher.
Schumacher. You can say it American way. Schumacher.
Both of them sort of make the sport boring because it's like, oh well, Michael won and Lewis won, and
Yeah.
then it's not that interesting to watch. So it could be also the reason why Lewis is getting extra hate, that it makes the races boring because he's gonna win.
I think also that you wanna in a champion you wanna see something like supernatural, like freakish, like you wanna see clearly why they're the best. And I don't think you necessarily see that with Lewis.
Yeah, because the car was so good.
That as well, but he doesn't have that insane aggressive driving style. He has a very calm and collected, and as you said, he has the most dominant car. But with Max, he has that roughness with him, like full force no matter what, and he's like really pushing. So I think Max would be, if you can keep that as a champion and not safe it in that sense.
Well, I'd say they sort of have the same, like, as you said, Max is rougher around the edges, but I think Lewis is just like refined. He had that probably, and then years after years, he learns and he learns, and he knows how to redirect this energy. And now it's just a strategy as well. And sometimes you have to keep your cool. I think that's one difference between all the experience Lewis has and the learning curve Max is still on, is that Lewis knows how to keep his head down and like keep his cool when it matters, whereas Max,
I think we're gonna see more of that with Max now as well. Like he's
well, I probably will learn from the last race in Bahrain because he was the favorite. He had the most dominant car, and then he didn't win. So,
but it's also like a bit of I don't know if you can say if it's a bit of strategy or that failed, or if it was just. I don't think it was too hasty of Max either. He was pretty patient, but then was pushed out. Not pushed out, but he went out, and then it was like in terms of strategy. I can't say that word for some reason. That they made the mistake of letting him pass on the straight instead of in a turn, because then he lost so much speed and they couldn't catch up again.
yeah, but again, like I think if that was Lewis, he would still have managed to win because he would have been a bit more strategic about it. So again, like Max is still learning.
Well, it's gonna be exciting. I think that's at least my 2 cents on the matter of why you're getting that extra hate or why Lewis is. I think the fans is ruining it for him.
I don't know. I don't think that's the case. I think Mercedes is ruining for him because
yeah, that's a good part of it as well. But I don't think the fans help.
I don't know. I like never saw anything about the fans, so I disagree. Okay, let's agree to disagree on that.
Sure. All right. So last thing before we end this podcast, wanna bring up some surprising race pay, right? Race driver pay.
Well,
drivers race.
Again, like we want to discuss how, when you compare how much the car does and how much the driver does, like, do you think the salaries that they're getting are fair? Because when you look at Grosjean's crash last year, that was on every single.
That happened? I never saw that.
Yeah, never, not even like 1,000 times in one race.
Yeah.
All that to say, like it was a reminder that it is a dangerous sport, but then you look at how the car itself does a lot of the work. So when you balance the risk that they take and then the impact they have on the performance, and then you balance it with the performance of the car on the other side, like, do you think their salary is fair? When you look at Lewis, who's a 7-time world champion and is getting $55 million.
I don't think that is fair. His salary. It's when you mention the risk, like if you really think about and if you take one step back and think what they were actually doing, I don't think all the salaries are fair. I think every one of them should make at least $1 million.
Yeah, some of them are underpaid.
Giovinazzi, just to mention, makes $684.
Thousands.
Yeah.
Because $684.
Yeah, $684,000, obviously. Just to make that clear.
No, that would be fun if I were to make more than a F1 driver, but no.
Which is kind of, I would say it's on a very low end.
Yeah.
It kind of shows the appreciation.
Well, to be fair, we all thought Antonio Giovinazzi wouldn't be racing this year. Like we thought Alfa Romeo would be dropping him last year.
Yeah, so true.
I guess maybe he was like, okay, I'll be your cheap driver for the year.
Maybe that's sort of the deal he took with that. But at the same time, I feel like you should make at least $1 million when you do this stuff.
When you take so much risk.
You can be a doctor and make the same amount a year.
Yeah, be a doctor then.
Go be a doctor, Giovinazzi. Other surprising, I didn't know Alpine and Renault, they really like to splash money.
Oh yeah.
Other drivers. Fernando Alonso, $20.5 million.
Yeah, I think that's what Ricciardo was making last year at Renault.
Yeah. Why are you paying so much for so little?
Well, not so little. He won 2 world championships whilst at Renault. So.
Yeah, in 2004. It's just changed engines twice.
You're paying for the experience and maybe paying for a team principal as well. It's like a pay cut because you're having 2 jobs in one person.
Yeah, but if you see on the other experienced one, like Vettel had to drastically go down. Drastically, we say, but I think it was reported he made 25 at Ferrari. He makes 17 million now.
Yeah.
Max makes 19. He's maybe the hottest prospect it's like the hottest name in F1 and makes less than
but
Fernando.
I think like it must be a record, maybe apart from Daniel Ricciardo, of a driver getting so much when they haven't been a world champion yet.
Yeah, Could
because
be.
Alonso is making 20 million. Vettel, 4 times world champion, is making 17 million. Who else? Kimi, 1 time world champion, is making 7 million.
Yeah. I kind of feel like that's fitting for the place he is in F1. Like he's
Who?
you Kimi,
Kimi.
because you're paying at this point. You're probably not paying for another world championship.
Yeah, you're paying for the experience, probably like the mentorship.
My point exactly. Why pay Alonso 20 million for that same experience? Well, not even, because he's been out of the sport for a while. Kimi was for a while as well, but he came back and became world champion.
I guess, Kimi, 1 time world champion, 7.5. Well, you double it for 2 world champions in Alonso.
Yeah, we more than double it.
Yeah, you more than double, but it's about that roughly.
Yeah. All I'm saying is,
Well, if we want to discuss Kimi, like as you were saying, like, do you think Alfa Romeo made the right choice by choosing Giovinazzi? Well, they're paying him poorly, but do you think it was the right strategy here, or should they be investing in someone? Whereas also
they should, yeah, I think they made a pretty good mistake. They shouldn't have gone with Giovinazzi. Like he's not the most horrible driver ever, but it seems pretty clear that Ferrari has no plans to promote him up.
It's not a rising star.
And Alfa Romeo is famously the junior team.
Right. Well, they're doing it with Haas, though.
Yeah, well, Haas is also like a customer, and therefore also just like Mercedes does with everyone else. But I think it would have paid off because like Nikita Mazepin is not a Ferrari Academy driver. Get the F2 Callum
Ilott.
Callum Ilott. I would rather I would rather have him in Alfa Romeo with Kimi, get some experience,
right.
which actually makes sense long term,
Mm.
rather than that's probably what's gonna if Kimi continues.
Well, who's the reserve driver though? Isn't it like?
It is him.
Yeah.
It is for Ferrari.
Yeah, but for Alfa Romeo as well. Like it was the other one. There were 3. There was Ilott, Schumacher, and then Schwarz something.
Don't know.
Well, another guy. I think that's the reserve driver. So why not have him as the second driver? Because yeah, I don't know why. Probably a long-term strategy here to keep Giovinazzi, but I don't necessarily see it.
Yeah, I don't. For me, it just seems like it's pretty clear that once these juniors come up, that he's the one that goes, and Kimi is sort of like, who knows how long he's gonna want to do this, or how long they want to keep him.
It's funny looking at the grid because like the new drivers are coming; they're always coming. So I'm wondering. Well, I'm betting Giovinazzi is out by the end of the season. I'm questioning if Ocon would be out, because there are rumors about Gasly taking the second seat next year.
Yeah.
At Alpine.
But at the same time, it was sort of like they invested so much in Ocon now, and Fernando is on a 2-year deal. Why throw away Ocon other than that he's not performing? Really.
Well, that's a good reason, I'd say. But he's being managed by Toto Wolff, so.
Yeah, but I don't see him going to Mercedes anytime soon. Like I think it's pretty clear that he's underperforming.
I think another point we seem to disagree on, well, like who's going to be out by next year is Bottas. I seem to think that he would have no point because I think Mercedes is going to like go for George next year with Lewis if Lewis stays.
Yeah.
And then Bottas would be out of a seat in Mercedes. And then if you've been in Mercedes, I don't see why you would go down. Like it's the highest standard, so why go down a team?
Well, so here's what I think. If he is just in F1, like if he solely wants to win the championship or nothing, then I don't think he continues in F1 because there's at the moment no other team that can fight for a championship that would sign him. If he, for the love of the sport, and think he can get some good placement, he can maybe drive a team forward a bit, be sort of a catalyst for that. I think there's gonna be a bunch of options for him to stay in F1.
I doubt it.
I think he will. He started at Williams. I doubt that Williams would say no thank you to have him back if he really wanted to.
Who would go to Williams after
that's what I'm saying. If he wants to be a catalyst and drive a team forward, like the star status you will get if you succeed.
Yeah, but imagine like
they have new capital, they have new owners, they have Jensen Butler.
Yeah, but I hope Bottas has some ego. Like that must be so hard.
Yeah, but it's not like a doomed thing.
Well, sort of is. Like there's, well, maybe not this year, but they've been last on the grid for a while.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That in 2022, hopefully we get different racing.
Yeah, I guess.
And it's sort of like that team is trying to make a turnaround, and I don't think like it's if by going from the best to the worst and getting the worst up towards the best is more star status than staying at the best.
Yeah, but if you leave the best to go to the worst and then you stay the worst, it's not really star status either.
No, it's not. But
So
that is like the point of the 2022 is that we want to have closer racing.
well, I guess we disagree on that one too.
I guess we do. All right, should we call it there?
Yeah. Next episode will be about, well, we'll be discussing and disagreeing some more about the team principles. As I think we want to discuss their roles as managers as well as businessmen.
Yeah.
As we saw in Drive to Survive,
Cash is king.
cash is king.
So yeah, turn back then to
The Pete will chat.
yes.
Happy Sunday.
Happy Easter.